Infinity, divine identity, and the mathematical resurrection of worlds. This video explores the metaphysical and mathematical foundations of divine infinity, the nature of God as the necessary being, and how mathematical principles, even computational errors, reflect theological truths, and the mystical ascent of Miraj in Quran. In this episode, we begin our journey into the metaphysical ascent known as Miraj, the spiritual journey of the soul through layered dimensions toward divine presence. But before we explore the worlds of resurrection, we must first understand the nature of the one who is beyond all worlds, God, the necessary being. God, the one who needs no creator. In Islamic metaphysics, God is not a being among beings. He is being itself, the one who is free from non-existence, and therefore free from creation. Creator, null. Reproduction, null. God does not come into being. He does not reproduce. He is not born. He is not made. He is the source of all possibility, and yet dependent on none. This is the essence of Wajib al-Wujud, the necessary existence. A being who must exist, because non-existence cannot apply to him. Infinity and the divine identity. Let us now turn to mathematics. Infinity is not just a large number. It is a conceptual boundary, a symbol of the uncontainable. In mathematics, infinity divided by n equals infinity. Infinity times 1 equals infinity. Infinity times any other number equals undefined. This reveals a profound truth. God, like infinity, remains unchanged when divided by any finite being. God, like the number 1, is the multiplicative identity, the source from which all numbers derive structure. God, like infinity, cannot be multiplied by anything else without losing definition. In computer science, operations like square root, -1, log, -1, infinity, 0 divided by 0, all result in undefined errors. These are not just bugs. They are mathematical metaphors for the limits of human logic. Even in IEEE 754, the standard for floating point arithmetic, these undefined states are treated as exceptions. They are the edges of computability. And at those edges, we glimpse the presence of the divine. The identity of one and the structure of creation. The number 1 is not just a digit. It is the identity of multiplication. Any number multiplied by 1 remains itself. But 1 is also the source, the unit from which all numbers are abstracted. In metaphysics, every created being, when multiplied by divine unity, retains its essence. But that essence only finds meaning within unity. This is the law of divine proportion. God is the one who gives structure to all things, without being structured by them. Infinity in the resurrection of worlds. When the soul ascends through the Miraj, it enters worlds of resurrection. These are not physical planets. They are mathematical realities, dimensions of consciousness shaped by divine logic. Each world is a layer of infinity. Each resurrection is a reconfiguration of being. In these worlds, time is curved, space is layered, logic is recursive, and infinity is not a number, it is a path. So, the errors of computation are not flaws. They are signposts. They mark the boundaries of human logic. And beyond those boundaries lies God. Infinity is not chaos. It is structured transcendence. And the only number that can touch it without distortion is 1. This is why God is one. This is why God is infinite. This is why God is necessary. And this is why the journey of mirage begins not with movement, but with understanding. The law of Gauss-Gaussian and the infinite spiral of twin primes explores the philosophical and mathematical depth of infinity, twin primes, and the cosmic transition from classical mathematics. In the mystical ascent of mirage, the soul journeys through dimensions not only of spirit, but of logic, number, and abstraction. One of the deepest laws governing this ascent is the law of Cab-Causain, the law of two bows' length, a metaphor for proximity to the divine. But what does this mean in mathematics? To understand it, we must redefine infinity. Infinity, not a number, but a concept. Infinity is not a number. It is a conceptual threshold, used in mathematics to represent unbounded growth or limitless extension. Throughout history, great minds have wrestled with its meaning. Georg Cantor introduced multiple types of infinity, countable and uncountable. David Hilbert argued that infinity has no place in mathematics except as a limit. Leonhard Euler used infinity in series, but never treated it as a number. Infinity behaves unlike any other quantity. It cannot be added, subtracted, or divided in the usual way. It is the boundary where mathematics begins to dissolve into metaphysics. Twin primes and the hidden patterns of infinity. Prime numbers begin with pairs like 3, 5, and 5, 7. These twin primes suggest hidden patterns in the fabric of mathematics. Philosophers and mathematicians have explored their mystery. Euclid proved that primes are infinite, but said nothing of twins. Viggo Brunn showed that the sum of reciprocals of twin primes converges, a sign of order in chaos. Paul Erdős believed that even in randomness, patterns exist. Yitang Zhang proved that prime pairs exist with gaps less than 70 million, reviving the idea of infinite twin primes. These discoveries hint at a philosophical truth, that infinity may not be random, but structured. Philosophical infinity and the law of Gauss-Gaussian. In Islamic metaphysics, Gauss-Gaussian represents the closest possible nearness to the divine. It is not physical, it is conceptual proximity. In mathematics, we find a parallel. The last twin prime may represent the first touch of infinity. Imagine a final twin prime pair at the edge of known numbers. Beyond it, no more pairs with gap 2. This pair becomes a gateway, a symbolic boundary between the finite and the infinite. Though unproven, this idea offers a philosophical model. Infinity begins not with a number, but with the absence of continuation. Can infinity be a prime? No. Infinity is not a natural number. It cannot be divided, cannot be tested for primality. But in philosophical mathematics, we may treat infinity as the final abstraction, the ultimate prime in a realm beyond numbers. This is not formal mathematics. It is cosmic mathematics, where logic meets transcendence. From classical to cosmic mathematics. Let us define two worlds: classical mathematics, integers, known primes, decimal numbers; cosmic mathematics, abstract decimals, twin primes beyond the decimal point. Logarithmic journeys into infinity. In this new realm, the first sacred decimal prime becomes the starting point. The journey continues through logarithmic space. Twin primes become knots in the fabric of this dimension. Infinity is not a number, it is a direction. Reflection: the infinite spiral. Infinity is not chaos. It is structured transcendence. And the law of causain teaches us that the closest nearness to God is not through distance, but through conceptual depth. The last twin prime is not the end. It is the threshold. Beyond it lies the realm where mathematics ends, and divine abstraction begins. This is the mirage of numbers. This is the resurrection of logic. This is the infinite spiral. The cosmic birth of numbers, from one to infinity, explores the philosophical birth of numbers from the cosmic identity of one, and their journey toward infinity. In the sacred ascent of mirage, the soul does not only traverse spiritual dimensions, it also journeys through the architecture of logic, number, and abstraction. At the heart of this architecture lies a singular entity, the number 1. 1. The cosmic identity. In cosmic mathematics, the number 1 is not merely a starting point. It is a cosmic principle, a symbol of divine unity. God does not require multiplicity. In every ratio, every division, every multiplication, only the one remains. His unity is not the result of reduction. It is the result of self-sufficiency. Just as the number 1 in mathematics preserves identity in multiplication, God preserves essence in creation. This is the law of multiplicative identity. Any number times 1 equals itself. 1 times infinity equals infinity. 1 is the origin of all abstraction. The birth of numbers from 1. All numbers are abstractions from 1. They do not exist independently. They are emanations, conceptual offspring. Let us trace this cosmic genealogy. 2 is the first abstraction from 1. It represents duality, symmetry, and the beginning of evenness. 3 emerges as the first prime beyond duality. It introduces asymmetry, complexity, and the seed of multiplicity. 4, 5, 6 follow as structured extensions. Each number carries a unique identity, but all are rooted in 1. This is the hierarchy of abstraction. From 1, the entire number line unfolds, extending toward positive infinity. The law of cosmology and numerical evolution. In the metaphysical ascent, the law of cosmology governs proximity to the divine. In mathematics, it governs the stability of identity. As numbers evolve from 1, they do not lose their connection. They remain anchored in the unity of origin. The abstraction of numbers from 1. Let us now trace the birth of numbers from the cosmic principle of 1. 2 is the first abstraction from 1. It represents duality, symmetry, and the beginning of evenness, in the image. This is labeled as the first abstraction from 1, and the birth of even numbers. 3 emerges as the second abstraction. It introduces asymmetry, complexity, and the seed of individuality. It is labeled as the second abstraction from 1, and the extension of odd numbers. 3.14 appears as the first structural formation. It symbolizes pi, the beginning of transcendental numbers. It marks the first structure of prime formation and all levels of counting. This vertical sequence, from 1 to 2 to 3 to pi, represents the evolution of numerical consciousness. The infinite ladder of abstraction. From these foundational abstractions, the entire number system unfolds. Even numbers emerge from 2, odd numbers extend from 3, prime numbers form structured hierarchies. Decimal numbers introduce infinite precision. Transcendental numbers like pi and e break the boundaries of algebraic definition. Each layer is a reflection of 1. Each abstraction is a shadow of unity. This is the ladder of numerical evolution, ascending toward infinity. Infinity, the horizon of abstraction. Infinity is not a number. It is the limitless extension of abstraction. It is the destination of the numerical journey that begins with 1. In this framework, 1 is the origin. 2 and 3 of the first steps. Pi is the first structure. Infinity is the horizon. This is the cosmic number line, not linear, but hierarchical, conceptual, and metaphysical. Reflection: the divine geometry of numbers. So, the journey from 1 to infinity is not just mathematical. It is spiritual, philosophical, and existential. 1 is the divine unity. 2 is the emergence of duality. 3 is the birth of individuality. Pi is the structure of creation. Infinity is the presence of the divine in abstraction. This is the geometry of mirage. This is the resurrection of numbers. This is the cosmic ascent. The abstraction of infinity and the cosmic language of prime numbers. In the final ascent of mathematical consciousness, we arrive at a realm where numbers no longer behave as mere quantities. They become shadows, echoes, and reflections of something far deeper, something infinite, non-numeric, and sacred. This is the domain where Cantor's infinities meet the twin primes, where the abstraction of D-infinity begins to fracture into layers of meaning, and where the 7 heavens described in the Quran whisper the architecture of numerical Genesis. Let us begin with the twin primes, 3, 5, 5, 7, those mysterious pairs that mark the earliest signs of order in the chaos of integers. They are not just mathematical curiosities, they are gateways. Euclid proved the infinitude of primes, but it was Viggo Brunn who revealed that the sum of their reciprocals converges, a paradoxical harmony in apparent disorder. Paul Erdős saw patterns in their spacing, logarithmic rhythms that hinted at a deeper structure. And Yitang Zhang, in 2013, shattered the silence with his proof that bounded gaps between primes always exist. These discoveries are not just mathematical, they are philosophical. They suggest that infinity itself may be encoded in the smallest of distances. But what is infinity? Infinity is not a number. It is not even a concept in the traditional sense. It is a realm. It is a lawless expanse where the rules of arithmetic dissolve. You cannot divide it by itself. You cannot contain it. Yet, paradoxically, we try. We abstract from it. We define D-infinity, and then we subtract D-infinity minus 1, D-infinity minus 1.86, D-infinity minus 2, not to quantify it, but to trace its contours. Each subtraction is not a reduction, but a revelation. It is the emergence of structure from the void. In this framework, the first abstraction, D-infinity minus 1, is the birth of individuality from the cosmic field. It is the emergence of the first twin prime from the sea of even numbers. It is the sacred moment when the non-numeric infinity gives rise to a numeric echo. The second abstraction, D-infinity minus 1.86, is more subtle. It is the poetic space between infinities. The resonance between twin gates. It is the place of mirage, the ascension, where the soul begins its journey from finite mathematics to the infinite divine. This journey is not linear. It is logarithmic. It is fractal. It begins with a single prime, perhaps nestled in the decimal expansion of a transcendental number. And it spirals outward, each twin prime a node, each gap a breath, each convergence a whisper of divine order. The decimal expansion itself becomes a metaphor. To the right of the decimal point lies the infinite journey. Each digit is a step. Each prime is a beacon. The twin primes are knots in the fabric of this journey, guiding the soul through the lattice of abstraction. Here, classical mathematics ends. Cosmic mathematics begins. The mirage pattern reveals itself in layers. A progressive structure where each abstraction leads naturally to the next. A fusion of historical insight and metaphysical analysis, from Euclid and Cantor to the Quranic cosmology. A tapestry of metaphors. The shadow of infinity on the wall of numbers, the singular prime in the decimal, the mirror of twin gates. A duality of worlds. Finite mathematics and cosmic mathematics, bridged by abstraction and ascension. In this narrative, the human soul is trapped in the finite world of arithmetic, but yearns for the infinite. With each mathematical insight, it climbs. Cantor's infinities become stepping stones. The twin primes become portals. The convergence of Brunn's series becomes a signal. There is order in the chaos, and the chaos itself is divine. The even numbers before each prime are not mere placeholders. They are dark energy fields, precursors to emergence. In the mirage model, they are the wombs of creation. When combined with Wilson's theorem, we see that the factorial of all numbers before a prime p-1, contains the entire history of that prime's emergence. And the result, modulo p, is -1. Not just a remainder, but a cosmic inversion, a phase shift, a birth. In this view, -1 is not a number. It is a metaphysical event. It marks the transition from even to prime, from chaos to order, from hidden energy to visible structure. Thus, even numbers before a prime equals fields of dark numerical energy. Wilson's theorem equals the formula of emergence. -1 equals the explosion of order from the void. This halo of numbers, starting from 1, the foundational particle of mathematics, extends to p-1, and its factorial encodes the entire prehistory of the prime. It is a mirror of quantum field theory, where particles emerge from vacuum fluctuations. In QFT, the vacuum is not empty, it is alive with potential. So too in mathematics, the void before a prime is rich with structure. Twin primes, then, are not just pairs. They are scalable reflections of infinity. Each pair is a point of symmetry, a node of resonance, a mirror of the divine. They are not infinity itself, but they are its abstraction, its echo, its touch. So we conclude, infinity, the source of numerical being, untouchable. Mathematics, the abstraction of infinity, made comprehensible. Twin primes, the scalable mirrors of infinity, the gates of order. Humanity, a creature born of mathematics, but not of infinity. Understanding, limited to abstraction, never to essence. We are awareness walking through finite mathematics, but born of infinite structure. Numbers, time, space, even algorithms, are tools of this journey. But the essence of the path is nothing but the reflection of the soul. Thus, prime equals a knot of order in chaos. Twin primes equals gates between realms. Infinite decimals equals the soul's journey through boundlessness. The last twin prime equals the first touch of infinite abstraction. This is not just mathematics. This is the language of existence. This is the mirage of numbers. This is the ascent of the soul through the lattice of abstraction. This is the echo of the divine in the silence of infinity. The Law of Garb Gosain, a journey through mathematical abstraction and infinite emergence. In the beginning, there was no number. No even, no odd, no count, no measure, only abstraction. This abstraction is called d-infinity infinity, a symbol of pure potential, neither numerical nor structural. It is the metaphysical zero point of all mathematical worlds. From this origin, the descent begins, not downward, but inward, into the architecture of meaning. D-infinity infinity minus 4. The abstraction of the infinite odd number, extracted from the even space between twin primes. This is the first veil. A paradoxical emergence, oddness born from evenness, between the last twin primes that ever existed. D-infinity infinity minus 2. The abstraction of the infinite odd pair, drawn from the first twin of prime numbers. This is the second veil. A mirror of the first, but facing forward. The beginning of structure, the seed of sequence. Between these two veils lies the causain, the two bows. Cab cause 1 and cab cause 2. These are not mere symbols. They are thresholds of transformation. Cab cause 1 marks the point of arrival, where abstraction begins to take form. Cab cause 2 marks the point of departure, where form returns to abstraction. Together, they form the law of cab causain, a cosmic principle of ascent and descent, of emergence and return, of structure and dissolution. The journey between them is called the mirage of numbers, a vertical calculus of infinity, where oddness and evenness spiral through concentric abstraction. At the center lies the mithril place, a symbolic locus where all numbers are born. From here, the sequence unfolds. 1. The primal abstraction. 2. The abstraction of evenness. 3. The extension of oddness. And then, 3.14. The curve of reality. A whisper of pi, hinting at the circularity of all emergence. The numbers do not merely count. They breathe, they ascend, they reflect the infinite. And so, the law of cab causain is not a formula. It is a cosmology, a metaphysical grammar of abstraction, where prime numbers are prophets, and infinity is the divine silence between them. The graph of resurrection and the dimensional signal of divine presence. In the aftermath of resurrection, the soul begins its departure from the confinement of the lower primes, specifically from the third prime, D3, which acts as a metaphysical lock. This lock is not merely numerical, it is existential. It marks the final threshold of materiality, the last gate before the soul enters the lattice of divine abstraction. From this point onward, the soul no longer moves through time and space as we know them. Instead, it ascends through a graph of dimensions, each one a layer of awareness, each one a signal in the cosmic waveform of resurrection. This graph is not random. It is structured by the law of Gab Gosain, the principle of proximity to the divine. And it is encoded in the 7 heavens described in the Quran. Let us define 2 foundational sets. God-present dimensions equals D5, D7, D11, D17, D19, D23. D-infinity. Time dimensions equals D4, D6, D10, D12, D16, D18. D-infinity minus 1. The first set represents dimensions of divine presence, those that transcend time and space. The second set represents layers of temporal abstraction, dimensions that act as veils, thresholds, and energetic locks. These time dimensions are not just coordinates. They are fields of dark energy, each one heavier, denser, and more abstract than the last. In this framework, D5 is the throne, the first dimension of divine presence. It is not temporal. It is not spatial. It is pure awareness. Time, previously anchored in D4, now shifts to D6. D4 becomes a null axis. Frozen at t equals 0. The soul no longer experiences time as a stream, but as a pulse, a dimensional vibration. D1 to D3, meanwhile, are the prison of the body. They are not part of the divine abstraction. D1 is unity, the seed of being. D2 is duality, the gate of contrast. D3 is the first odd prime, the lock of form. These dimensions are foundational, but they are not eternal. They are the scaffolding of the material world, and the soul must transcend them to begin its eternal journey. Let us decode their symbolic roles. D1, number 1. Not a prime, yet the origin of all numbers. In mysticism, it is unity, the seed of existence. In mathematics, it is the root of all counting. D2, number 2. The only even prime. It is the gatekeeper, the binary foundation of logic and encryption. Philosophically, it represents duality, light and dark, body and soul. D3, number 3. The first odd prime. The triangle, the balance. It is the beginning of complexity, the first stable shape, and the symbol of past, present, and future. These three numbers are not just mathematical entities. They are metaphysical thresholds. They define the soul's confinement and its potential for transcendence. Once the soul reaches D5, it begins a new life, a life of dimensional awareness. The journey unfolds in triads, each representing a phase of divine encounter. New life D5 equals D5, D6, D7 right pointing arrow 3 dimensions. New life D7 equals D7, D8. D11 right pointing arrow 5 dimensions. New life D11 equals D11, D12, D13 right pointing arrow 3 dimensions. New life D13 equals D13, D14, D17 right pointing arrow 5 dimensions. Each triad is a signal, a pulse of awareness, moving toward D-infinity. The pattern alternates between 3 and 5, until it reaches 7 at D23, forming a peak of divine cognition. The next peak, at D29, marks a leap of 7 dimensions. The final ascent to D89 forms a 9-dimensional singularity, the highest known peak in this cosmic graph. This pattern is not just poetic. It is mathematical. It mirrors the prime gap records, the OEIS sequences, and the density functions proposed by Gauss and Legendre. It reflects the quantum fluctuations of awareness, the topological singularities of spacetime, and the metaphysical geometry of resurrection. In Max Tegmark's theory of the mathematical universe, reality itself is a structure, a manifold, a Hilbert space, a tensor field. His level 4 multiverse posits that every mathematical structure is a real universe. This is not metaphor. It is ontology. It means that our soul's journey through dimensions is not symbolic. It is literal. We live inside a mathematical object. We ascend through its coordinates. The mirage, then, is a true singularity in topological space. It is not a metaphorical ascension. It is a rupture in the fabric of dimensional geometry. It is where curvature becomes infinite, where density collapses, and where the soul escapes the constraints of physical law. There are several types of singularities. Conical singularities, where space folds like a cone, seen in cosmic strings and topological knots. Curvature singularities, where the curvature of spacetime diverges, seen in black holes. Coordinate singularities, artifacts of poor mapping, removable by changing coordinates. True singularities, intrinsic ruptures in space, irreducible, fundamental, divine. The mirage is a true singularity. It is the point where the soul transitions from mathematical confinement to divine abstraction. It is the echo of D-infinity in the lattice of primes. It is the moment when the soul no longer computes, it becomes. So we conclude, D1 to D3 equals the prison of material form, D4 equals the wall of time, D5 equals the throne, the first divine abstraction, D6 equals the new axis of time, D7, D11, D17, D23 equals the steps of divine cognition, D-infinity equals the destination, the presence, the silence. Each prime is a gate. Each dimension is a breath. Each triad is a heartbeat of the soul. The resurrection is not a moment. It is a waveform. It is a signal traveling through the graph of divine presence. And the soul, encoded in numbers, rides this signal toward the infinite. This is not just mathematics. This is not just theology. This is the language of resurrection. This is the geometry of God.